Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and I hope you guys are having a great Monday. Today's video is different. It's not quite a well, maybe it is a state of the game, but it's not in the traditional way that I would normally cover it. I want to talk about, now that the War Scourge is over, I want to take a look at the scores. Sort of where, not the scores exactly, how many players were involved in the event, and how many players were involved in Morgan Le Fay's first Pestilence run, and how it seems like we've lost a lot of players in Marvel Strike Force. I want to talk about why that might be, what's the driving force of all of this, and what does this mean for us, the players, as we go forward towards the end of 2022, as we go into 2023, and, you know, what more we have to expect, especially with regards to the direction of the game, with Apocalypse and the Horsemen, with Death, with the eventual release of Apocalypse, of course, and all that and more. So that's what we're going to get in today's video. So if you're ready to go, then let's boil this down. And a special shout out to Bob. This is his alt account here on my Discord. He shared this with me, which is basically the ranking for people who have cleared just one node. Now, let's zoom out a little bit. And now this doesn't mean that there's exactly 281,000 players currently in Marvel Strike Force. It means that we don't know how many are below him, because honestly, that's the lowest score that you can rank on the leaderboard. So there could be a couple thousand people, could be a couple hundred people, you know, at the exact same score. This is one node cleared on difficulty 1, just for reference here. And so if we're conservatively estimating that maybe there's a couple thousand people that maybe did one node. So let's say 200, let's round up, say there's 285,000 players at the sheer bottom of it. This is still quite a drop, in my opinion, from what things were like about 5.5 months ago, almost 6 months soon, from when Morgan Le Fay's first event dropped back in early April, and ended around April the 16th or so. And I have this video, this screenshot here, and this was actually from Mobile Gamer's video from April 16th. This was him using his alt account, sharing the ranking threshold, the scoring for him when he did one node in Morgan Le Fay's event. And you can see it's about 302,000. Now, again, if we touch on the same sort of like, you know, maybe so many people had the same rank, did one node. I don't know how many people. Could be a couple hundred, could be a couple thousand. Let's say there was 305,000 players. There was actually some suggestion in my Discord that it actually was higher than this. I don't know if this was specifically at the end of the event or not. So that might be something to consider as well. But nonetheless, we've had a net reduction of players in this time period of over 20,000. Possibly over 25,000, but this represents a pretty large figure. Now, in a percent based, it's about 7.5 to 8%, so it doesn't sound that much, but when you look at it in raw numbers, I think it does. And then we need to talk about why. Why is Marvel Strike Force seeing a dip in players? And I don't think we can no longer use the post-COVID excuse anymore. Like, we're 2.5 years on now. Like, this was a thing. Of course, Marvel Strike Force's peak was probably in that mid-2011, 2021, sorry. And then maybe by the second half of 2021 and onwards, that's when the player base started going down in general. And I wish I had backdated information of how many players were around, like, at the height of COVID, just out of sheer curiosity. But I don't have those figures with me here, and I'd have to probably search back 2 years just to find that. But, you know, in terms of their overall revenue from this year, even that's gone down. So a combination of decreasing players and revenue figures, I want to kind of draw your attention to some of these. This is Sensor Tower from January 2022 for Android. 600,000 downloads in the month of January for Android devices, and 6 million revenue. I know it's hard to see. I should have chopped off all this bit. So this is the important stuff on the right-hand side here. Now, if we go to Android September 2022, you got 300,000 downloads and 4 million revenue. That's a half. That's cut in half. The amount of players downloading this on a monthly basis has been cut in half in about 10 months, 9 months. And so that's quite stark. The drop in revenue is about a third. So that's about a 30% reduction of revenue from Android devices. And just from Android alone, that's about $2 million on a monthly basis. Now, of course, I don't know what it was necessarily. I think I made some picture posts every now and then. I couldn't track them down from other months because I do check this every now and then. But that still shows us that at least throughout this year, there has been not only a drop in downloads and players coming in, but also a drop in money for Androids. Now, we'll take a look at iOS. I have that too. So this is, on a whole, there tends to be more people downloading on Android than iOS, but more people spend who have Apple devices. So, I don't know. I guess people with Apple devices tend to have more money, and therefore they're spending more. So this was 300,000 downloads and 8 million monthly spent on Apple iOS in January of 2022. And it actually hasn't changed much in the revenue spending, but the downloads are down by 66%. 2/3 have been cut. We've gone from 300,000 monthly downloads to 100,000. Revenue being the same, I don't know, maybe iOS, Apple players are huge Kraken whales and they're gambling addicts. I don't know. Because realistically, that's what a lot of Marvel Strike Force is that it's loot box gambling, you know, for your orbs, right? Especially for the month-long event of Abomination. And so let's put this into perspective. So let's go to the combine the January 2022 figures. So that's 300k iOS and 600k Android. So that's 900,000 downloads for 1 month in January 2022 compared to 300k plus 400k. So going from 900,000 monthly downloads to 400,000. That's less than half of the total amount of downloads in about 9 months' time. So yes, some of this may be as a result of, you know, back to work. I keep saying, how long can we use that excuse, right? We're pretty much back in there now. I don't know in what country that you live in that there's still lockdowns, but for the most part, you know, most of the world has kind of opened up at this point, and you know, COVID's still there, of course, but we're back to as normal as we can be, I think, in my opinion. And so that's a drastic decline. Now, what are some other reasons that this could be the case? Well, I'm just going to use my Scourge infographic. I'm also slightly plugging this as well. You guys might have seen this before. But is this part of the problem? So, is this year-long schedule of events, does this have anything to do with it? I don't know. You know, compared to what we used to have in the past, compared to how events were structured, how legendary characters were released, is this a direction of the game that people are happy with? And I know that there's been a lot of problems with this style, especially with, I guess what I would call the forcing of players to build certain characters, to build teams in order to unlock Apocalypse. And so that's the Horseman teams, right? Darkhold, Unlimited X-Men, Gamma, and actually this is an older version of my infographic. My apologies. This is the patch 6.21. I have an updated one, a 6.41 on my Discord. Go check that one out if you're actually looking for it. I was mainly using this as a prop. And then we have the Death Team, which we don't know yet. And so we're forced to build these 4 major teams to gear them up to gear tier 16 or 17, which, you know, baby or big Apocalypse, blue level 4, blue ISO 4 for all these 20 characters, plus Spider Weaver and whoever else comes by, right? So that's probably going to be at least 25 characters that are guaranteed that you have to gear up to gear tier 16 and 17 and blue and so on and so on. And maybe people just don't like that. Maybe people just don't like being told what they have to do with their roster to unlock these characters. 5 characters was one thing for old legendaries, but like 25 plus is something different entirely. And I think that kind of ruins the theory crafting aspect of the game, which a lot of people kind of wish that they could go back to, I think. So that's just one issue. You know, from a gameplay perspective, from maybe just people are unhappy with that side of it. The others is this. I think you guys know what I'm alluding to. Come on. I mean, look at this, especially since... Actually, it's definitely since patch 6.4. Look at all of the squares. The majority, 90% of these squares are bugs. Okay? An adjustment to Red Hulk, Spider-Verse tags, and a raid event. That's not really... it was a change, not a bug. 6.4 release notes. Issue with version 6.4. This was a blog post. This was War Drums. Addressing several issues, September 20th. 4 Scourges not working as intended, September 22nd. Blog post. Golden Opportunities, Destined Connections, and Scourges. 6.4.1 release notes, which clarifies, you know, the changes to the bugs, which some of them did not, especially how long it took for them to fix the Adam Warlock thing, because that was not changed right on 6.4. Update on 4 issues. Scopely account offer issue, which is the Power Core stuff that we've been talking about earlier. 5,000 Power Cores, when and where? You get the point. Oh, this one too. Issues with the launch time for Avengers Tower. I forgot about that one. So, hold on. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 blog posts since 6.4. And only 3 of these were actual blog posts, which means that 10 out of 13 of these blog posts were fuck-ups. And so it's no surprise that there's less players in the game. It's a combination, right? Like, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what the problem is, but it's a combination of a lot of fucking bugs, and people are just fed up, and possibly are quitting as a result. There's less players. Maybe people are going back to work, right? More people are going back to work. Just don't have the time to invest into Marvel Strike Force anymore. Maybe they're fed up, sorry, from this release method, from Apocalypse, and they just can't do it. Some of the events have been very grueling. You know, they've been very challenging and grueling. I want to point out to the Hulkbuster event, the Agatha event, anything that involves like 6+ rotations of Blitz or more to clear, or in excessive amounts of power cores or whatever. You know, that kind of beats people down a little bit in terms of, you know, them wanting to play the game. Summer of Blunders, don't forget, you know, that was in Mighty Thor time. If we actually look at the post here, you can see, this is iOS, let's look at this one, sorry, iOS September 2022, and you can see where the negative reviews are coming in, and a lot of these are peaked at these sort of issues. We can see here that there's a big spike here in sort of the middle of September. And that coincides with patch 6.4. There's a lot of this here. You can also see another one here in the middle of August. I can't remember exactly what that is. And if you go far back here, there's probably more. But this was the Summer of Blunder stuff. There was another spike back this way. And that was Summer of Blunders, when they fucked up with Mighty Thor and also the Dazzler payout as well for the month-long event. I feel like I should know what that one was, because I probably talked about it. If you remember, let me know in the comments down below. My memory's a bit failing me, but that's besides the point, right? We're down 20,000 plus players, and that's really important, because what does that mean going into the end of the going towards the end of the year, going into 2023, and what does that mean for the player base overall? There is no Marvel Strike Force without the players, and we need to have we want more a net positive replacement of players, not a net negative. And so this is a little bit troubling, because this game doesn't function without its players. We need it for the PvP game modes. Alliance War, Cosmic Crucible, Arena, for what it's worth, you know, all these things, leaderboards, they're all required to have a good experience in Marvel Strike Force, whether you believe it or not. And so the decline of the player base, you know, you can attribute it to a handful of things that I've talked about in this video here today. It is very meaningful. And is this going to continue? And at what kind of pace? Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. What do you think are the major reasons for people leaving Marvel Strike Force? I know there's quite a few. I know a lot of people have just been fed up. And actually, this may get worse going into the new year, because I've talked to a lot of players, even people in my own alliance, who have been talking about Apocalypse. And, you know, what happens when Apocalypse comes out? Is he going to be all that in a bag of potato chips? Are people going to be satisfied with how he comes out, him as a character? And are they going to want to do it all over again when they inevitably do another Apocalypse-style character in the same manner? We'll have to find out. So that's the end of this video, and of course, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.